Okay, so what we're running today is a game called Midgard, which is a game I've written, but the specific battle we're playing is the Battle of Dagestan from 603, where an alliance of Northumbrians fought and destroyed an alliance of Gaelic tribes, so what we'd think of now as Welsh, Picts, Scots and Irish. And some of these collections we've had for 20 or 30 years, so it's been a great opportunity to put together lots of different figures and get them all out on the table again. Oh, it's been absolutely great today. I mean, the Midgard thing I've been writing and playing on and off for about 3 years now, and I've got quite an active blog, so we've got quite a few followers on social media, but actually the reaction today has been wonderful. Lots of people really interested in the history, the figures, the way we've done the terrain, all the things you get from a Wargaming show, from seeing things, you know, up close and personal. What I've tried to do in Midgard is create a narrative battle game where you have realistic tactics for Dark Ages or heroic warfare, but the heroes are very much the stars of the show. So the heroes have similar status to big men in Lardy rules, for example. They have mighty deeds that they can spend on doing mighty deeds, issuing challenges, fighting single combat, and the unit mechanics are as simple as they can be, whilst allowing an enjoyable recreation, I guess, of Dark Age warfare, as much as that might be. They're going to be published by Ricewitz Press, so the freelance publishing arm of Two Fat Lardies. We don't have an exact publication date yet. I'm finishing a final draft at the moment with a large round of playtesting, and then of course it will be to art and layout. So as soon as we have news, it will be on the internet, but at this point we're not going to say exactly. It's a combination of many things I've played over the last 20 or 30 years, but the concept of the heroes as the big men, every turn they get a set number of mighty deeds, which are silver markers placed next to them on the table, and those can be spent, but they're not actually spent to activate units, they're spent to re-roll command tests, to issue challenges to enemies to boost your unit's combat or shooting, or if you're playing the more fantastical version, they can also be used to cast spells and trigger mythological traits. But the game's been very much written as a sandbox type game, whereby you can play any setting with it, where you're talking about large skirmishes to battles between, if you've got units of kind of 30, 40, 50 men, or Amazons or Centaurs armed with swords, shields and spears, but where the deeds of heroes are really important to the game, then you can play that. So we've been playing Celtic mythology, Norse mythology, a bit of Greek mythology, Trojan Wars, Bronze Age, quite a few Dark Age games, El Cid. We've used it for Tolkien-style fantasy as well, so kind of the lower fantasy end of fantasy, if that makes sense. But we've played all the way up to 100 Years' War and Wars of the Roses with a few tweaks for it, and you know, it's worked really well. Another key mechanic in Midgard, which I should mention, is reputation. Now, I know many Lardy fans like a drink, but we're using these goblets today to record the reputation of your heroic leaders. So an army has a set reputation value, and then you can gain reputation during the game through heroic deeds. So challenging single combats, leading your warriors into battle and so forth, but you can also lose it. So when a character is killed, they lose reputation. If a character's unit is killed around them and they survive and run to their friends, you lose reputation. If you turn down a single combat, you lose reputation. So it's quite a fluid system, and it means you get a very clean result at the end of the game, because if you haven't finished your game in the time you've spent, then you can count up the amount of reputation. Of course, during the game, if your reputation goblet runs empty, your warlord's reputation is lost and your soldiers flee the field.
Oh, right, today we've got a whopping great game of the Battle of Brown Way Down, 1643. Royalists versus Parliamentarians. The Parliamentarians are at the top of a really steep hill, and we've made a big hill today, thoroughly committed to the hill, and the Royalists are attacking up it. We've played twice, we're on the second game now. The one this morning just went terribly wrong for the Royalists from the start, but they fought hard, but they didn't manage to take the hill. Today, this afternoon rather, it's going, I think, a bit better for them. We'll see whether they make it or not. King and Parliament, yeah, the rules that I wrote with Andrew Brentnall, our English Civil War set. We've got the game in 6mm as well at the end of the table. We're using a scenario that Andrew and I wrote together with two different variants. So it's more or less the same scenario, but with a couple of different angles on it, depending on how you think the troops were deployed. Well, we looked at all the historical sources for the battle, and they're all referenced in the scenario pack. It's a question of whether someone's right, whether they were to the right of the guy that was describing them, or whether they were the right of the troops that he was describing. I believe one, Andrew believes the other, and rather than fight to the death over it with the 2x4 in the car park, we decided we'd write two different versions of the scenario. Well, it's a rollicking good set. It plays very fast, it's very bloody, it's very unpredictable. You can play the same scenario 8 or 10 times and it will be different every time. You'd never get the same game happening twice in it. I mean, it's designed so that you can play a game on a 6x4 cloth in a room over a pub in 2 hours with a few pints of beer without losing your mind entirely.
Partizan, I just think it's the friendliest show on the circuit. I've been coming here a long time. I used to go to the Partizan show when it was in the old premises at Kelham Town Hall, which was dark and dingy. And of course now it's certainly not dark or dingy. It's huge and noisy and packed full of war games today. I mean, I don't know how many people have actually come through the door, but it looks very, very busy to me, that's for sure. And I love it, the great selection of games. You tend to get some of the best looking games in the hobby at this show. And some of the luminaries of the hobby just kind of wandering around, such as yourself, Alex. This little thing, which is kind of Wargaming Campaigns, my second book. Obviously, people who bought the Wargaming Compendium have been waiting extremely patiently for a very, very, very long time for this. I think it's almost exactly 9 years since the compendium was published. A lot's happened in the intervening time. I've changed job twice, I've had cancer, I've had a mental breakdown, I've had COVID, and the world's turned into a strange place. But here it is, folks, it is actually real, it's actually finished, and I'm delighted to actually be holding a copy in my hands. You know, anyone who's written a book knows that it's kind of like your baby. So to finally have this is just the advanced copy. They literally just couriered this in from the printers in India. The rest of the, a couple of thousand copies are in a container somewhere between here and India. They told me 30th of May as the official publication date. Could be sometime in June. Don't ask me. Folks, please be patient. You'll have to ask Pen and Sword. So if you want your copy sooner, email Pen and Sword, penandsword.com, I think it is, or penandswordbooks.com. But it's going to be here any minute, and it's packed full of stuff all about campaigns, whether you're talking about small campaigns of a limited duration or big campaigns that you could carry on playing for months or years, campaigns with thousands of miniatures involved, or tiny little skirmish level campaigns like Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of thing. It covers fantasy, science fiction, historical, fictitious. One thing that people ask me to do, I've been asking me for years, is, Henry, how do you draw your maps? Well, this book tells you how I draw my maps. So there's a full kind of Photoshop tutorial of exactly what I do to create a map from scratch, and also a list of, there's kind of fancy software out there these days that can pretty much do the job for you. So it's all in here, and loads besides, stuff about naval warfare, air warfare, logistics, all that kind of stuff, campaign generalship, massive. Well, the first reaction is, oh my God, it's heavy. And it is, it's the same, it's about 1.5 kilos, the same as the compendium was. And I think people are just kind of blown away by how comprehensive it is. So, you know, people have only got time to have a quick flick through here at the show, but the response I've been getting has been wonderful. I think partly because a lot of people in the hobby know the journey I've been on in the last few years, so it is actually a bit of a miracle it exists at all, but also then they're seeing how comprehensive it is. I shall give it a quick flick through, Alex, for your viewers. You can see there's a lot in there, a lot of words. I reckon it's about 250,000 words, something like that, and a lot of maps that I've designed, a lot of other maps that I've got from other sources, photographs. And the thing about my books is I don't just write them, I do all the design and layout as well, and all the maps. So that's why it's taken quite a long time. But yeah, people seem to be thrilled that it's actually here, and I've just been blown away by the kind of level of support I've been getting, that people are just really pleased for me that at long last, the companion to the compendium is going to be appearing on people's shelves.
Right, well, we're here today. We come to this Partizan show quite a lot. I always came down with a close friend of mine, Ian Smith. We've been gaming together and doing games or display games on at shows for about 15, 20 years. Started in the 2000s with 40 mil of the games we've got now. Did American Civil War back in the 2000 somethings, and then in 2016 we went to Salute and around with a Napoleonic game like this one. 2 years later we did an American Civil War one, and this one here was the culmination of sort of like a swan song time where me and Ian were going to have this on here, but unfortunately my friend Ian died very recently. Most of it is down to him. This was his baby, this was his view. I was a painter who painted a lot of the stuff with him and for him, and having lost Ian, I spoke to the family and asked if it was possible to still put it on as a tribute to him. So we brought it here today and basically showed it to everybody so everybody could see it and see what a fine job he'd made of putting it all together. Fantastic reaction from people. Everybody's come over, people talking about it, talking about Ian, talking about seeing things in the past that Ian had done, the games that we put on, and the game itself. And sadness as well that now, because Ian's not with us, that the fact that it will probably be the last time that our games get the games get seen, as we've been moving on from things now and probably sell it all for his, because it's a legacy for his children now. It's part of their inheritance. I'm getting a selection of things from it for being part of it, but yeah, I think it's time that we found a buyer and they could get their thing from what Ian has left for them. There's fantastic figures, there's some fantastic buildings, all been put together, beautiful setups, and we were never really war gamers as such. We were display gamers. And so everything we tried to build was a display as well as a war game. And I think somebody is going to get themselves an absolute deal. I would love it for be somebody who would then re-show it at shows. You never know, but hopefully that would be something that they do. So, yeah.
We're putting on a Cold War Commander game in conjunction with Pendragon Miniatures. It's been sort of in production for quite a while, and The new rules have come out today, released today at Partizan, and we sort of, with Leon, we suggested that we put a game on, although it's 6mm, and obviously Leon's 10mm. He sneaked a little Vietnam game on the end here. It's basically just, we play tested the rules, we've been involved in the rule development, and we wanted to help out with Leon and get a game on the table and get some of my nice terrain on the table at Partizan. The tables had a lot of good comments. The rules, I think a lot of the rules have sold due to people coming up, which has been really good. People have come up and said, oh yeah, I had version 1 and I've never really played it. Well, nice to see version 2 coming out. And it's been fantastic. It's been really good. I mean, I think Leon's selling them like hotcakes at the moment. So, it's done its job, and it's nice to get the guys together. We haven't been together, obviously, for a while with COVID and everything. So it's nice to get some of the chaps together and get back into it. Yeah, I've painted and built and labour of love on the 6mm viaduct that the railway bridge that goes across the table. Yeah, so it's all mine. A lot of it has been in existence for about 8 years. We started the group probably 2012, was our first ever up in Sheffield, in Dungworth. And since then we've added stuff. The more people have got involved, the more we've sort of thought, well, we need to improve the terrain and make this table. And there's a core group of about 6 or 7 of us who are here today, who are really keen on making 6mm Cold War, or even World War II. We play a lot of World War II. Look good to look at. There's a lot of 6mm games. I think it gets a bit of bad press sometimes. That the terrain isn't great, and it's some foam trees, and a bit of this and a bit of that. And it just shows that you can make a table look impressive, and it does look like some of the bigger scale games